have a hell of a show today.
Yes, we do.
For those of you that don't know and couldn't tell from the thumbnail or the title, this entire episode, other than the box office at the end, can't go without the box office, is going to be in regard to the SAG strike along with the WGA strike that's still been ongoing, as we've reported here on the show. That's it. We're going to do a dive into why SAG is striking, kind of go into some of the talking points as to what caused it, and kind of some external factors as to how this all happened with two unions striking at the same time, which hasn't happened since 1960, I believe.
Jeez.
Yeah. Last time it happened, Ronald Reagan was president of SAG.
So will Fran Drescher be president?
Yeah. If history repeats itself.
Jeez. 1960. Ronald Reagan. Holy shit.
Yeah. It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It's a lot to unpack.
But first off, let's kind of address how we're going to handle the SAG strike, because I have people asking me, like, what are you guys allowed to do, really, because it's a tough line to cross there. And while none of us are members of SAG, we do act in short films. We're a production company first and foremost. We make films and short films, and obviously during the SAG strike, we're not going to be starting writing because the writer's strike as well, or any production on any new short films at all. We have 3 that have already been shot and are in the editing phase. We'll just continue to work on those, but we will not be promoting those in solidarity with the writers in SAG strike, because we don't want to promote anything where we can't have the cast and everybody promote it with us. That would just be arbitrary and kind of leaving them out. We are also not going to be doing any promotions in any way, shape, or form. Not that we were getting promotions before, but any promotion in regards to anything that is being struck. We will also not be attending early movie screenings that are free or not for the public to buy a ticket to. And because of that, we will also not be releasing early movie reviews, because that counts as promotion if you do a movie review before a movie is released to the public. We will be doing reviews after movies come out, because that's public discourse at that point, and that's what we normally do anyway. But we will not be. We also on the channel, you may have seen that we've done interviews with actors and musicians before. We are not going to be doing any interviews during this time either. And from what I understand from the things I've seen from the SAG-AFTRA press release, everything else that we do in regard to bringing you guys news and box office and movie reviews after a movie's been released, from what I understand, is not violating anything, and I'm not scabbing in any way. I have a lot of friends in SAG-AFTRA, and I have a lot of viewers who will probably also know. If I am misinterpreting that, or if you can point me in the direction of saying that something we are doing is in violation of that strike, please reach out to me. Please comment in the video, and I will gladly take a look and make sure that we're not doing anything wrong, because that's the last thing we want to do. Is something wrong.
If we have to cease just everything, then obviously.
We have to look into that. But from the research I've done and from looking at the press releases from SAG, it appears that everything that we're doing, with the exception of everything I just said, will be okay. So with that being said, let's talk about the SAG strike.
Yes. Where to begin?
Yeah, where to begin? So there was an extension with the SAG deal to kind of get it to July 12th, because their contract expired, I think, 2 weeks before that. And now what the actors have realized is the studios had no plan on reaching a deal. They just wanted to get Barbie and Oppenheimer and all the summer movies promoted. So that really pissed off the actors, rightfully so. And before we dive into this, we are very, very on the SAG-AFTRA side here. We're not fighting for the studios in any way, shape, or form on this.
Yes.
And let's kind of dive into the 2 big things that the strike is about. The strike is about many things, and I'll read these ongoing.
Yeah.
But the 2 big ones are actually the same 2 big ones from the writer's strike: AI and residuals, specifically residuals for streaming. We've now seen countless examples of people coming out and saying what they've been paid on in terms of residuals to kind of show how ridiculous it is in regard to streaming. A star of Orange is the New Black, I forget the name of the actress.
I believe it's Kimiko Glenn.
I think you're right. Recently made a video showing that she got a residual check for Netflix for being in several episodes of Orange is the New Black.
I think she was like part of the main ensemble.
Yeah, and her residual check was like less than $30.
Yes.
You have the writer of the Daredevil episode of She-Hulk.
Their best episode.
Yes, saying that his residual check was $396. Just horrific shit in regard to residuals. And when approached to the AMTP SPT, I'm saying that wrong, but we're going to call them the producers.
Mm-hmm.
When approaching them to offer up, hey, this is what we kind of are offering for residuals. They wanted 2% of all residuals for streaming to go to SAG, and then SAG determined based on the actors and the contracts and everything who gets the residuals. And they were going to do it through third-party companies who determine a show's value and net worth, through social media, through Chatter, through some other signups like Saban and other companies that, or not Saban, I forget the name of the company that tries to do streaming charts.
Okay.
And it's like, we'll use these third-party companies to determine that 2% and go on. And the producers responded by saying, oh, well, those aren't reliable. You can't rely on those, so no, we're not going to do that. And then the actors were like, okay, well then can you release your numbers so that we know what it is, and then we can do the 2%. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that either. So we can't use third-party companies, and you won't release your numbers, so just no residuals then is kind of where that came out to, which is absolute horseshit.
Mm-hmm.
In regard to AI, the big story that came out of this, and by the way, a lot of this I'm pulling from Variety, Hollywood Reporter, and just other members of SAG saying this online. But the thing about the trades are very pro-studio. Their relationships are with the studios, not with the actors.
Yeah.
So you have to take a little bit of what they say with a grain of salt in regard to the strikes. Mm-hmm. For example, Variety did a whole thing. They did a whole article on, here's everything the producers offered to the actors. And had a whole list. And actors are going by one, kind of banking on like, no, that's not what was offered. No, that, And then the one that made the headlines, though, there was one that said, groundbreaking AI proposal. And the actors were like, oh, would you like to know what their groundbreaking AI proposal was? It was to 3D scan a background actor, or also known as an extra, for their likeness, pay them for a day, and then reuse their likeness whenever they want because they own it through AI. And then when inquired, oh, and every time it's used, that actor will get residuals? Nah.
No, $100 flat
just
fee.
A one-time payment, which is normally like $200 to $300 per day, and then they own them forever. And there was no language to determine when they own someone's likeness what that means. Mm-hmm. So basically, if I went on and I was an extra in, the Marvels, and they scanned me in and they're like, all right, we own your likeness, thank you for coming. That was for Disney. And then I went to Warner Brothers to be an extra in, Blue Beetle. They'd be like, oh, well, Disney owns your likeness. So, like, we can't use you.
Yeah.
So I just did background extra one thing, and then that's it. My career's over.
And now when Marvel or Disney needs a background person, like an airport scene or whatever, you can see yourself.
Yeah, for no extra money.
Walk by for free.
Yeah. And it's just like, there was no language to protect that from being the case.
Yeah.
So it's like, in what way did you think, like, we were going to love that? Like, they came to him like, isn't this groundbreaking? And it's like, fuck, no, it's not groundbreaking. You're out of your mind. Yeah. And then you have CEOs. I didn't expect Bob Iger's villain arc to start from all this.
Yeah, ever since he came back after Chapek, I don't know what happened to him.
He's been on something because he just renewed his own contract for through 2026.
He hit that next tax bracket and was like, oh, I get to play with the big boys now.
Yeah, so he renewed his contract through 2026 via Hollywood Reporter. Mm-hmm. And he was on an interview, and he basically said that, the things they're asking for is completely unreasonable. And it's like, no, it isn't.
Not even in the slightest.
Like, it's very public what they're asking for, basically. And here's the big thing, and I mentioned this with the writer's strike as well, but it's just as relevant now with the actor's strike. The streamers specifically, they're the big culprits here. Mm-hmm. The streamers do not, under any circumstance, want to release their books. For two reasons. Both are bad. And it's scenarios. Mm-hmm. Either A, because what's going on is the studio executives, like the Netflix CEOs and all them, are all getting bonuses and no one's getting residuals, writers, actors, anybody. So either A, the shows are doing so well that they're hoarding all the money for themselves, bad. Mm-hmm. Or, scenario 2, even worse, the shows are not doing as good as they say they're doing, and they're still giving themselves bonuses.
Yeah.
Also bad. Like, horrible. And under no circumstance did they want to release those books and show people how much money they're keeping and not giving to the people who made the shows. You have the creator of Squid Game saying that, I didn't really make money from it at all, really. Like, they paid me once, and then that was it. And it's like
Netflix's biggest show, one of their bigger shows.
According to them, you know. And it's like, I'm surprised. I wouldn't be shocked if at some point some of the studios to start getting subpoenaed too, because we've seen labor disputes before where the government has to get involved. And if the government gets involved in this, they're going to make them release their books.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to change the game forever.
Will the government get involved because, like, just the movie industry as a whole is such a big moneymaker for...
I don't know the specifics of exactly what would require the government to get involved. I don't know how long it would have to go on or whatever.
How much money would be lost.
But with this labor dispute, with the UPS labor dispute, eventually, if you keep getting these labor disputes, the government's going to be like, all right, what the fuck is happening here? And start stepping in. And it's not going to go well for anyone if it comes to that. And, then you have the Deadline article that came out of producers saying, in the middle of negotiations for SAG, saying, like, yeah, no, the goal with the writers is to wait until they start losing their apartments and homes.
Yeah.
What the fuck? And it's like...
the shittiest thing to say.
Yeah, like, horrible. And it's just like, they clearly... But that just goes to show they don't want to make a deal. They want to force the others into a deal they don't want to take. And what it also shows is that they are afraid. Make no mistake, the studios are afraid. Eventually, they're going to lose money. Now, will this take a while? Yes. But what we're going to get to is to when the most recent earnings call comes out, which is probably not going to be till around August or September. And when there's no money involved, the shareholders are going to be like, make a fucking deal. Make a deal right now. This is ridiculous.
Well, especially what you're seeing, at least with this summer. This summer's box office is awful.
Yes.
Terrible. These big budget movies are not
spent all the money.
Any money back. They are all in the red.
Yes. And here's what pisses me the fuck off about that. The studios and Bob Iger's, the David Zaslavs, everybody are all saying, you're striking at a really hard time for the industry right now. Like, we're trying to recover from COVID, and things are not going financially well for anybody, and you're choosing this time to strike. That's really fucked up. Whose fault is it that it's doing so terribly? Like whose fault is it? It's yours. You spent $300 million on movies that you knew you were never going to make that money back. You spent $200 million on streaming shows. And then you made audiences, you trained them to stay home for streaming releases through the pandemic, whether it be the Warner Brothers HBO Max thing or the Pixar Disney thing. Like, you set yourself up for failure, and now you're like, it's a really inconvenient time for you guys to be striking. Fuck you. You're the one that ruined it.
You're putting $220 million into Secret Invasion on Disney Plus. Now, granted, I enjoyed the show, but like, what the fuck? That does not need that big of a budget.
Over $300 million on Indiana Jones 5.
These do not need these big budgeted things.
And like, Netflix is spending $200 million on movies. Like Gray Man was over $200 million
for no one to see it. Yeah, or for it to be on streaming.
Do you think it's going to do you think that's going to generate $200 million worth of signups because the Gray Man's going to be on Netflix?
Absolutely not.
No. Citadel on Amazon, I think it was around a $300 million price tag. $200 million maybe. What the fuck?
It's insanity.
And then they're like, you guys really aren't asking for a lot. What do you mean? And here's the thing. SAG really helped the situation by striking because now the problem's more immediate. Because with the writers, studios have 30 years of scripts locked up that they've never made that they can start cranking out if the writers take too long. SAG, everything shuts down. Yeah. Anything that was filming prior to the strike is now not filming. And originally the UK was going to continue filming, but I've heard that they've now stopped in solidarity. Because I think House of the Dragon was still filming. But
UK
now,
is a different...
Yeah.
Okay.
But now they've stopped.
Shit.
So, listen, it's a whole fucking thing. And I'm going to pull up a Variety article now that breaks down specifically what is being broken down by what the actors were asking for. And again, take this with a grain of salt that it probably will be skewed towards in favor of the studio. Streaming revenue share, which we mentioned. SAG wants 2% of the revenue for each show, which we talked about. Pay increases overall. The AMPTP, that's the thing, apparently offered some terms to SAG that were approved by the Directors Guild that included a 5% increase on, basic minimums and everything. And the Directors Guild taking a deal kind of fucked the other ones because it's kind of the directors took this. We're not the fucking directors, Artificial intelligence, again, another thing that we talked about with the whole likeness dispute. Oh, this is another one. Self-taped auditions. I thought this was interesting. SAG wants the studios to make self-taped auditions less of a requirement because that became an industry standard during COVID. It only happened sometimes before that, as like a pre-screening stage before you would go in and do auditions. But now the studios realize they save all this money by making actors do self-tape auditions, but they're making them do like 20 pages sometimes.
Oh, Jesus.
And it's like, you can't let that be on the actor to like have the stuff to record themselves for 20 minutes. Like you're putting in favor people who have more money.
Yeah.
You know, like
We're
other than
up their production value.
Whether if it was a standard audition, that person could come in and, you know, do it in front of you better. So basically they were, what the AMTP offered an 8-page limit. The SAG-AFTRA wanted 5. So that was one of the things that they were kind of working out before it went to shit. Pension and health contributions, obviously, are going to be a thing. Another interesting one, Actors Access. That is a website for casting. The SAG-AFTRA realized that they saw a pattern, because there's different tiers of Actors Access that you can pay for.
Okay.
And they realized the higher tier you had, the more auditions you were getting. And they were like, we don't want the service to be the more you pay, the more the more jobs you get. That's not how it works. That's not the point of the paying the more money.
Yeah.
And the AMTP was kind of, they were also figuring out like a way to stop that preferential treatment based on money. Option periods for TV actors, background actors outside of Los Angeles and New York, basically just trying to get more protections for them outside of the 2 big cities that do them. And SAG-AFTRA also wanted to get some sort of money covering performance capture. Not unreasonable things. And, you know, but the 2 big ones still being AI and the streaming residuals.
Yes.
It's been a nightmare for that. Now, I'm going to go to an article that is over 10 years old. And the reason why I'm going to this is because it's funny how smart people in the industry can predict things happening. There's an old viral video from like 2003 or so of Ben Affleck predicting like Spotify and streaming shows. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's pretty interesting. But we've pointed out on the show today that what caused all of this, because like, listen, COVID, no one's fault in regards to how it fucked up the industry, right? What you do after that is on you. And the studios fucked up big time by overspending. Now, 10 years ago, June 12th, 2013, so a little bit over 10 years ago, Steven Spielberg did an interview with The Hollywood Reporter and had this to say. I think eventually the Lincolns, in regard to his movie, will go away and they're going to be on television, as mine almost was. This was close to being an HBO thing. We're talking Lincoln, Red Tails, we barely got them into theaters. You're talking about Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, and they can't get their movies into a theater. This is George Lucas now talking. I got more people into Lincoln than you got into Red Tails, which Steven Spielberg added on. The pathway to get to theaters is just getting smaller and smaller, George Lucas. And basically it was them, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, just saying 10 years ago, you know, this pathway is getting a lot smaller and things are getting more expensive. One of them went even on to describe the, quote, implosion of the film industry 10 years ago. And here we fucking are. I think it would have been longer, but COVID kind of...
rushed it.
Yeah.
Just bumped it up
and
by,
like,
5 years.
We're hitting a serious breaking point and bubble on this. And I just really hope that a deal can be made. It's looking like a deal's not going to get made for actors or writers till like October. I see some people saying like, 3 to 4 weeks is the actor strike. I don't think so. It's all going to depend on when those quarterly reports come out, when those earnings calls come out, and when shareholders can be like, what the fuck? Because that's the only thing they're going to listen to is the people who have stock in their companies. I did a lot of talking there, Nicholas.
Yes, you did.
Sorry about that.
You're good.
I'm hot. I'm hot about this.
As you should be.
Your thoughts on the SAG-AFTRA strike?
I mean, I don't really have much to add outside of everything you already said and talked about. I'm in full agreement and full support for both striking parties. It's just insane that it got to this point because it just seems like what they're offering, it just is so idiotic. Like, why would they think scanning someone for their like would be a good idea that someone would reasonably agree to?
Yeah, like, aren't you guys excited? Like,
yeah.
No,
not in the slightest. Right? Like using AI to write a script and then have a writer say, like, who in their right minds think this is a good idea? And just the residuals, the fact that, you know, I know Orange is the New Black was one of Netflix's biggest shows at the start, and one of the leads is making $27 in residuals. People who are writing these Marvel shows that are, you know, getting viewership, not as much as they would like, I'm sure, but are probably making less than someone who's writing on a sitcom on CBS or something because the residual structure, because they don't have the numbers to back it up, is just insane.
It basically became the actors and the writers being like, hey, you should pay how residuals were when on network TV because that was really beneficial and everyone enjoyed that. And studios are like, but the reason why we like streaming is because we don't have to pay you.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Like, I don't want to call out any shows or writers, but like when you see, because I do get like TikToks occasionally of like writers breaking down their residuals, and I'm seeing stuff for like sitcoms that are just not good, that are making more, and I'm like, and now granted, whether you think She-Hulk is good or not, but like the fact that it's like double, sometimes triple for a
because it has that
for a
network
Marvel
ads
episode,
and,
like that's insane to me. That's just absolutely not fair. And now with Netflix wants to add that ad tier platform, and these streaming services that have the ads on it are the writers of the ads. Are like, how does that all work if they're not getting any of that?
And I've seen this argument too on the other side come out of like, oh, so you're telling me like the Tom Cruises and the Leonardo DiCaprios of the world need more? Fuck off. An overwhelming majority of SAG-AFTRA are not movie stars.
No.
It's people who do commercials for a living. It's people who do little roles for a living. I have many friends who do that. I have many colleagues who do that. And their healthcare is relying on this. 87% of SAG doesn't qualify for healthcare because you need to make a minimum amount to get there. Residuals for streaming is the make or break for some people on healthcare. Like, it is a very, very big, important deal.
And a basic human right, if you ask me.
Exactly, especially for an industry that's so competitive. Because for some reason, the studios still have the mindset of like, oh, well, you get to work on a big Hollywood movie. Isn't that great? People who've been in the industry for a long time are like, it's my job.
Yeah, like I'm just straight up working.
I'm working here. Yeah, this is great and I love it. That's why I'm putting up with this shit. But like that, you can't pull that on me. You know, like it's not going to work. Yeah. And you know, it's really sad.
No, and all these actors that have like that is solely in solidarity with the rest of SAG, as it should be, which is the right thing to do. Yeah, you know, because like you just pointed out, the DiCaprios and they're not affected by this. They're, you know, but it's all in solidarity.
Yeah. This is true. Well,
it's a shit show. The whole thing is a shit show.
We're going to, whenever we hear news about the strike, we'll let you guys know about it. In the meantime, on the show, we're going to do is whatever movie news we can and bring you the box office, and we're not going to do movie reviews before they're released to the public. So, again, SAG-AFTRA friends, colleagues, if I'm doing anything wrong or if I'm misinterpreting the SAG-AFTRA press release, let me know, and I will take action. But with that, with the heat down, let's make it lighter and let's move on to the box office.
The box office.
If I don't say it like that, I'm going to die. Nick, I'm telling you right now, I don't think we've ever been more wrong.
Oh, boy. I'm trying to pull up our thing here now. All right. Dalton, last week you had Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Insidious 5, Indiana Jones, Spider-Verse, Joyride. I had Mission Impossible, Insidious, Indiana Jones, Sound of Freedom, and Elemental.
Very cool. We were obviously both wrong. Very wrong.
Jesus.
Let's do this.
Let's go on.
Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 came in first with a $56 million weekend. It did open earlier in the week, so it has made more than that now, but that was the weekend number. Coming in number 2 with a 37% increase from week 1, Sound of Freedom, making $27 million last weekend. It did open in 313 more theaters, but that does not warrant a 37% increase. That's word of mouth.
27 million.
Yes.
Okay.
I stupidly last week on the show said everyone who watched that movie's seen it already. I was so wrong.
Apparently not.
Third, Insidious, The Red Door, making another $13 million. Dropped 61%, slightly below average. Coming in fourth, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, making another $12 million. And coming in fifth, Elemental, staying in the top 5, making another $8.7 million.
And these are the Sunday estimates.
Yes. Joyride took an average drop, 56%, and it came in ninth.
Oof.
Yeah, so let's
very funny movie. Go see Joyride.
Yes. Let's dive into this, shall we?
Let's do it.
Mission Impossible so far worldwide has made $235 million on a budget of about $290. Yikes! It's made about 0.8 times its budget back. But we'll see as it continues to roll out and play out. I don't suspect it taking as big a drops as some of these other big Hollywood films taking, because the word of mouth on this has been very positive.
Yes, but next week we got Barbenheimer.
Yes.
And
I suspect Mission Impossible to be third.
Yes, because I also think, I think that people really are going to be double featuring, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, some combination of the two, that I think Mission Impossible might just get kicked to the wayside unless someone wants to see it and not go with the crowds.
Absolutely, yeah. Sound of Freedom now has a domestic box office total of $85 million on a budget of, I think it was like 15. Make no mistake, this is a huge success for the studio. I still have not seen it yet. I had some friends watch it who are outside of the typical target audience, and they said the movie's good. So I want to go watch it.
I feel like it really is just this aspect of the religious studio behind it.
And marketing to an audience that hasn't been going to the movies. It's magic. What can happen when you find new audiences? It's a huge success story for that movie and that studio. Insidious: The Red Door has now made $122 million worldwide, and has made 7.7 times its budget back.
Good for Patrick Wilson.
Go Patrick Wilson.
That's really all we care about with that story.
Yeah, I still got to see the movie too. I've heard it's not bad.
No?
I've heard several people say they enjoyed it.
I saw a thing on Rotten Tomatoes, whether or not you rely on Rotten Tomatoes or not, but I think the audience score was pretty high and the critic one was not.
But. Yeah, but they've never been that high for that franchise, and I love the first two films.
We went through that last week. It was not really.
Yeah. Indiana Jones has now passed $300 million worldwide. Congratulations, you've made back your production budget. So that'll continue to end up being a money loser. But hey, it's had average drops both times. It's going to have more than an average drop next week with Barbenheimer, but we'll see. And coming in fifth, dude, Elemental. Don't call it a comeback, guys. It has made over $311 million worldwide now. It has surpassed Creed 3, The Flash, obviously, and it's going to go on to probably be one of the highest earning movies at the box office this year. Granted, it did have that $200 million price tag, so it's only made about 1.6 times its budget back, but it has stayed in that top 5 for weeks now.
Profitability, well, especially now we're getting to the point of that's just straight counter programming.
Yeah.
There's no other kid movie. I mean, the Kraken movie, but you see Pixar, you're like, well, I'm going to go see the Pixar movie.
Exactly. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has now made $663 million worldwide.
Fuck yeah.
Transformers Rise of the Beast has now made $420, blaze it. And
blaze it.
Will hopefully get a sequel.
Please.
No Hard Feelings has made $77 million worldwide on a budget of 45 at 1.7 times the budget back. It's going to teeter profitability there. Joyride has made $10 million worldwide, which sucks because it deserves more than that.
Yes.
It's going to end up being a money loser as well. I suspect both of these will do okay on streaming, though. Teenage Kraken has only made $30 million worldwide on a budget of 70, has made 0.4 times its budget back. Shame. And let's do The Flash.
Why not?
Worldwide, $263 million. Domestic, it just crossed $100 million domestic. Not good. That's going to be one of the biggest money losers ever. But yeah, so there you go. There you have it. You know what? I'll do Asteroid City and Little Mermaid too. Asteroid City's made $41 million.
All right.
Go Wes Anderson. And Little Mermaid has made $546 million.
Do you know what Wes Anderson's highest grossing movie is?
No.
All right.
Maybe it's Grand Budapest?
Let's see.
All right, Grand Budapest made $163 million worldwide.
All right. That has to be it by far.
Yep.
All right.
So yeah, Grand Budapest. Go Wes Anderson. Let's do predictions for next week. And this is going to be fucking funny, dude.
Boy. Hit me with it, Dalton.
Barbie number 1.
Okay.
Oppenheimer number 2. Mission Impossible number 3. I'm not going to doubt it out again. Sound of Freedom number 4. Insidious number 5.
All right. I'm going to go Barbie. Mission Impossible.
You are out of your mind. You are out of your mind.
Do you it's a 3-hour, I guess, Mission Impossible.
Do you know what it's tracking?
No. What's it tracking?
50 million.
Oppenheimer is?
Yeah. Watch, it opens to 8.
Oppenheimer. Mission. I'll go. Let's see, Sound of Freedom made 13.
And then
Or
27.
27. So 27.
It increased 37% from last week.
I will go sound, and I will go... Fuck it. I'll go elemental.
Hey, listen, it's been in there.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm thinking, like, are Insidious and Indie going to have huge drop-offs that Elemental might squeak in as the kids' movie?
You know, I'm thinking that there's a chance... This might be the biggest money of total box office of the year. Because Barbie's probably going to open north of 100.
Mm-hmm.
Oppenheimer's going to make north of 50. Mission's going to make probably 25.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good box office weekend.
Sound had an increase. Even if it has a 50% decrease off of it, that's what, still 27, so like
13.
13,
Yeah.
And then everything else was 13, 12, and 8, so that's another 5 million most likely, roughly. It's not bad.
Not bad at all.
Not bad at all.
Not bad at all.
We'll
and
see
just a reminder, next week's show will be virtual because I will be in San Diego for Comic-Con. And I was going to do some content, but that would kind of be promoting for the studio, so I will not be doing that. And with that all down, I think that's all we have for the show.
Yep, so tune in next week. We'll be virtual. So our reviews for Barbie and Oppenheimer will also be virtual.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please support WGA and SAG. There are many organizations where you can donate to some of the struggling people who are striking. Please look into that. And I've been Dalton Burdett.
I've been Nick Garcia.
And we'll see you next time.